about to start, so if we could have everybody please take your seats. If there are not seats, then we at least have to ask that you be quiet as we start the program. All right, and with that, I'd like to announce our Executive Director, Maureen Hunt.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, as Scott said, I'm Maureen Hunt, Executive Director of the Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. And I would like to thank all of you for coming out here to our 2013 annual State of the City address. Okay, before I get started, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge some special people that we have here tonight. We have our Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. If you're in the room, can you just raise your hand and be acknowledged? Thank you. And we'd also like to recognize our Hermosa Beach City Council members. Is Pete Tucker here? I'm not sure. Pete Tucker? Jeff Duclos? Yay! Howard Fishman? Yay! Michael DiVirgilio? And Kip Babko. Okay, and our city manager, Tom Backley. And we have some other special guests here tonight. We have Steve Napolitano, representing Don Canapi's office. And we have Veronica Zenia, representing Ted Zlew's office. Okay, and now I would like to introduce our Board of Directors' new president, Ken Hartley.
Thank you, Maureen. The Chamber's been busy over the past several months, working on many projects, some new and some old, and we're confident that that will not only help our many businesses in Hermosa Beach, but our residents and visitors as well. We're proud to host a number of events citywide, most recently, of course, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which had a great turnout just 2 weeks ago. The Chamber is also proud to host a number of events that bring the community together, like the annual holiday tree lighting, the New Year's Eve celebration on the pier, as well as our weekly farmers market. These projects are possible from the funds that we made from our 2 Fiesta Hermosa events, which are coming up in just a couple months. This year we've added some components to help make the Fiesta a little bit more local. We're going to try bringing some additional things over the next few Fiestas to continue that trend and make it more local. The Chamber is a nonprofit organization and is completely self-funded, and I encourage all of you to visit our website, communicate with us, look at our Facebook or Twitter page. Without further ado, because I know you're not here to see me, it's my privilege to introduce the Mayor of Hermosa Beach, our friend Kip Babko.
I like it.
Well, thank you everyone for coming this evening. As you all know from dealing with me in the past, I am a deadly serious guy. So, there may be some random jokes in here. I want you to know that no one's pride or ego should be damaged in the process. So let's get right to it. The first thing I want to do is introduce all of the new folks that we have working in the city here. And we've got a bunch. First one, and this is not a recruiting poster. And it's also completely out of character because Chief Johnson is the happiest guy I know. But I think when they make you take your official police picture, they tell you not to smile. Right, Chief? No smiling. Chief Johnson, Interim Chief Johnson, he's been in law enforcement for 27 years. Started his career down in Orange County, worked in Huntington Beach for a number of years, and I believe 1995 went over to San Marino as a lieutenant. I'm sorry, 2005 as a lieutenant. And we got him here. He's been our interim chief for the last year or so. And I'd like to introduce Chief Johnson. He's in the back of the room. Chief, you can raise your hand. Everybody can see that. The next person is our new Assistant City Manager. This is Dan Strickfadden. She is working closely with our new City Manager, Tom Backley. Diane holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from UCLA. Really, if it was SC, everybody would know. An MPA from Cal State Long Beach. She has worked in Linwood as an HR director. Hawthorne, I believe, is an assistant city manager. She is also a master of labor relations. We are pleased to have her on board. Please help me welcome Diane. Now the next photo I'm going to show you, I'm just going to show it to you. Any guesses? No? He's laughing loudly right now. Okay, how about this? Let's go back. No, it's not Carol. That's our friend Sam Perotti and Carol Tanner, who are the manager of the year. I don't think Carol's here tonight, is she? No? Sam is here. Carol is our woman of the year. She was one of the founding members of the Hermosa Beach. She's in the Women's Club, Garden Club, Friends of the Library. She's lived here since 1958. We are pleased to recognize her as our Woman of the Year. And our friend Sam Perotti, who has been on the Planning Commission for the last 18 years. Ballroom dancer extraordinaire, and actually told me I could use this photo when I asked him. Why? To prove to all of you that he was actually a handsome young guy. I believe this is in Washington, D.C., about 1968, you told me? Yes. There you go, cherry trees in the background. So, here's the theme for tonight. We're going to have some fun with old pictures, I think. Some of them will be self-explanatory, some of them I'll help you through. This is our new city manager. That's not a joke. Believe it or not, we hired him despite the photo. The unintentional humor. Tom, we got Tom from Park City, Utah. Tom has been in government since he started in Pasadena in the mid-90s. He worked in Pasadena for a few years, and then Park City grabbed him. He worked his way up through the ranks there, became the city manager, and we stole him away from Park City in September of last year. Tom has a bachelor's degree from Colorado College, which is a hockey rival for Air Force, and he's got a master's degree, an MBA from USC. That's the difference. UCLA people won't cheer for their home, but they'll boo SC. One of the things that we did when we hired Tom was we were real clear about what we wanted him to do. And what we told him was, we need you to help us work through planning. And Tom has a background in planning. He worked in handling big events. In Pasadena, he worked on the World Cup in 1994. He worked on the Super Bowls. He worked on Rose Bowls. In Park City, he worked on the Olympics. Park City is also a resort town, much like our own. Different attractions, but the same idea. So when we brought Tom on, one of the things that the City Council did, which we are all very proud of, is we incorporated into his contract that he had to help us plan. And believe it or not, we've actually incentivized him to help us do that. And I'm going to talk through the planning process in just a few minutes. But to get Tom, we went through an exhaustive search process. There were 74 candidates we interviewed. We narrowed that down to 9. And from that 9, from the interviews we did with the 9, the council interviewed them, we got down to 4. And I assure all of you, there was no contest. When Tom was interviewed with us, he was by far and away the best one. We knew all of us immediately. And for those of you who follow politics in town, you know that we don't all immediately come to consensus on the council very often. But we certainly were Tom, and we are proud to have him. One of the things that we did, though, we did a lot of background on Tom. And we found out some interesting stuff about him. The first thing I'm going to show you is that apparently he also did a lot of work with kids. And we found this on the video on the internet. I don't think it's ever been seen before. I'm going to share it with you right now. We had no idea. We had no idea. Strategic planning. I'm going to talk about just 3 points today. We're going to talk about strategic planning first because it's real important, and as a council we have spent a lot of time on this. Why is it important? Everyone talks about strategic planning as though when you talk about it you have one, but you don't. To develop a plan you need to work, and we went through a lot of work to develop ours. One of the most important things that it did was when we sat down as a council and we talked about our strategic plan, it forced us to talk about what types of things we thought individually government should be doing. Obviously, again, there's some dissension on the council about what the proper role of government is. But believe it or not, we actually found consensus about what the core things that we should be doing are. And I'm going to show you the next slide. It's going to give you a schematic to kind of put that into a context. But that's important. More importantly, what that does is when we have a plan, and we'll get to it in just a minute, all of you have some papers that you're probably sitting on or have thrown on the floor. I'm going to reference those in just a second. But what it does is it clarifies for the community what we're doing as a council. It clarifies for staff what the council wants them to do. And it clarifies for us as a council what we actually think is important and what we should be doing. So it actually, if you will, the strategic plan is an operational compass that keeps us all pointed due north. So the schematic that we've used for this is something that our consultant gave us. His name is Lyle Sumac. He's fantastic. But what this is, if you want to think of it as a house, the council, we all agree on what the core functions of government are, right? We want to keep our streets safe, paved, and infrastructure. Can't hear me in the back? Better? Better, better? Better, better? Sorry. So those are the core businesses that we do as a city. The next things that we do are things that we choose to do that we think are important. We basically agree on those things, but generally, as a council, we agree on these two things. The next level up are quality of life issues, and this is where we start to fragment. Some of us think certain things are more important than others. Some of us think government shouldn't be doing those things at all. And lastly, you have the community add-ons. What we find is in California, when times were good, the add-ons got bigger and bigger and bigger. There was just more and more and more. And as government has retracted because it has less funds, what you find is that the community is asking, hey, what's going on with these things? And what we say is, well, we need to make sure that we're doing the core business first. So this is the schematic that we use. When we talk about the plan, this is what we were using as a mental roadmap to get to the strategic plan. We had 3 days of meetings. Again, if any of you have been to a council meeting, it was basically 3 days of a council meeting. That's all I'll say about that. What we did, though, was we spoke with this facilitator before the meetings, and we gave him our ideas about what the priorities were for the city, what the challenges we thought the city was facing. Still can't hear me? Better, better? There are seats up front, too, for those of you who are having a hard time. And what our accomplishments were. We gave all these, each of the 5 of us individually spoke with our facilitator. He compiled a list, and then we went through the lists at our meetings. Ultimately, we arrived at this document, and all of you have a copy of it. It's out there. I'd ask for you all to take a look at it real quickly because this is the roadmap to what Hermosa Beach is going to be doing for the foreseeable future. So, if you look at the document, what you'll see is that there are 4 different quadrants. There's the vision, which is 2028. That's what we expect to be doing in 2028, way down the line. There are the goals, which are nearer term, 2018. Policy, which is what we're going to be doing this year. And then the management agenda, which is the things that we want management to do to get us to those policy goals. I'd like for you to hold one item in your minds, okay? One thing, because I'm going to talk about this as a recurring theme. And that is the #1 goal that we have for 2018, financially sound city government. Financially sound city government. I'd like for you all to fix that in your minds. So I just wanted to show you what we did. After our consultant compiled all of the things that we gave him, we went through and we fly-specced each one. And this is an example, I just want to provide an example of my work. But we talked about words we liked, words we didn't like. We interlineated things, we changed some things completely. And then after we got done, after we got complete consensus on all these things, then we went through and we voted on them. And when we voted on them, we came up with guiding principles. And if you look on that document that you have, next to each of the goals, there's a number next to it. The number corresponds to a guiding principle. This is one that I thought was important that would give you a flavor for what we were doing. The best little beach city. That's how we see ourselves. I think all of us have kind of an idea of what that means, and we have a different perspective on what we think the best little beach city is. But generally, I think everybody in this room probably agrees that that's Hermosa, right? The best little beach city. There are two things I want you to think about as well that we're going to talk about a little bit more here. That's number 7 and number 8. Number 7 is the top quality small hotels for our visitors. That's important for a number of reasons. A financial reason first and foremost. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And number 8 is, I think, really catches a lot of what we feel about Hermosa, which is it's a place for innovators, champions, and iconoclasts to enjoy life. If you go out on the Strand any weekend, you can see Olympians playing volleyball. You bump into world-famous artists. I mean, we were talking about one last night. There's a photographer here in town, Bo Bridges, world-famous guy. You have rock bands who have come here through the years. You have iconoclasts. I mean, one of the best-known architects in Southern California lives right here in Hermosa Beach. Do you know him? We all know him. This is Hermosa Beach, and the thing is that we all live here. We all know who these folks are, and everybody's left alone to do whatever the heck they want, and that kind of makes it special. Implementation. This is the next step. So now that we've set out the roadmap, what we need to do is align the money with the roadmap. This is where the rubber meets the road, and this is the tough stuff. So what I'd like to do, and I'm not going to bore you with a lot of financial stuff because it gets boring for both the listeners and the speaker, is to talk for just a minute about where our money comes from and where it goes. These are our general fund appropriations. You can see that the lion's share of the appropriations, public safety, 63% of our general fund goes to public safety. That's $18 million of our budget. To talk about being a financially sound city without addressing public safety is like someone talking about losing weight without talking about food or exercise. It can't be done. It's a hard thing to do, but you have to do it because that's where our money's going. The other thing that's important, where we get the money from, where money comes in from, and I forgot. Another document that y'all have, which is a really neat little thing, is our budget at a glance here. All of these numbers are inside. You can take it home and talk about it over dinner. But this is a really neat little document. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. There's only two things that I want to point out here, and again, this will be a recurring thing. Number one is the TOT, transient occupancy tax. That's the bed tax that we make. That's the bed tax that we take when the beach house rents a room. That money is money that comes directly to the city. So you can imagine the more hotel rooms that we have, high-end hotel rooms that we have, the more revenue that comes into the city. It's true. The other large amount of money that we get is from property tax. And the property tax, if you look on that pamphlet that I just directed you to, you'll see that 20 cents of every dollar that we pay in property tax comes back to Hermosa. 80% of the dollar goes to other people, the county, other taxing agencies. So we think we pay a lot of property tax and other taxes, and we do. Unfortunately, Sacramento and other LA County and other people take the majority of that money. Again, this is the financially sound government. This is another. This is something I want to point out to everyone because there's, I believe, some misconception out there. This is the amount of money in millions of dollars that we pay in pension and other than pension employee benefit costs post-employment. Now there are two lines on the screen. This line is today. This is the amount of money that we're paying out of our general fund. Today it's about $4.8 million. $4.8 million goes right to pensions and other than pensions and benefits. Some in this room will tell you, not to worry, not to worry. We've just instituted the two-tier pension system, and that's going to save us. The two-tier pension system is like telling someone on the Titanic not to worry. In 30 years, they're going to have high-speed boats that are going to sweep in and take all you out of the sea. The two lines are important, and I'm going to try to get through this with as little pain as possible. The lowest line is S1, and that's just this scenario 1. And that scenario is the amount of money that the city will pay to pensions and benefits if PERS, which is our retirement system, earns 7.5% on its investments. Anybody know what PERS earned last year?
2.5.
1%. S3 is a different scenario where PERS earns 2.7 or 2.2%. So you can see there into the future where the lines diverge, that's the difference of what PERS will earn on its investments. The delta between those two, we pay for. This is an important chart because this is, you can see that's $7 million going into the future, potentially, that we're just going to put into pensions and benefits. Again, to talk about financial sanity without talking about pensions and benefits is like talking about losing weight without talking about food or exercise. Can't be done. The whole thing isn't going to be this serious, by the way. This is something else that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. Some, and even some in this room, will tell you that we've cut back too much. We've cut back too much. Hermosa Beach is to the bone. We need to discuss as a city what we think is important, and that's what we're in the process of doing, which is why the strategic plan is so important. But this is an important chart to consider. Notice that it says S1, actual and projected revenue for S1. S1 being, S1 being the base return, 7.5%. So assuming that the PERS is able to make 7.5%, if we had kept on our current course without making any of the cutbacks that we made over the last 2 years, you can see that these lines, the vertical lines are our revenue, those are our projected expenditures. We were right at the edge. Right at the edge. We made the cutbacks, and this is the solid black line. We're still pretty close. But let me ask you a question. If you were running your household, which line would you think would be financially sound, and which one do you think would not? If the PERS returns are 2%, the dotted line is what our projected expenditures would be on our current course. The solid line is what we on the course without cutback. The solid line is what the course is today. I'm not going to. Everyone in here is an intelligent person who can understand the math, but I ask you, which of those lines is the financially sound line, and which of them isn't? This is an ongoing process. We are going to keep talking about these things, but again, the financial part of it is going to be tough. And everyone needs to be aware that these are the real issues that we're talking about here, right here in the world, Hermosa Beach. And this is what we're talking about. Okay, let's lighten it up.
You're a motley crew.
I'm not a motley crew, but again, when we were doing our research for Tom, we found that he was a fan of Motley Crue. Actually, I don't think fan is quite strong enough. I'm going to show you the video that we found online. I like I was looking right at the camera. He always knows where the camera is. Right? Okay, enough about finances. Let's talk about something else. What we're going to do now is walk through kind of the development of Hermosa Beach as it has been over the last couple of years. This picture is apparently a 1920s picture of Pier Avenue. You can still see that there aren't any empty parking spaces. 1950s. And I think actually if you look closely here, you can see that this is J.R. Ravitsky driving. This is the mayor dedicating the pier in, I believe it was 1965. You can see POs, I don't remember POs. Sometime in the 70s. Again, not one open parking space, and I believe we still have the same parking meters. Lighthouse, that is the coolest little MG in the world right there on the bottom right. This is Pier Plaza. Some of you in the room might not believe it. That's Pier Plaza. Any guesses on what this is? I found this. I'll give you a hint. The address is 52 Pier Avenue. It's a coffee shop. Maybe this will help.
Sure. Coffee shop.
Is Ron here somewhere? Ron, we actually had a place in the plaza with a thatch roof. Here's the other side of the plaza. And here's just a slide I found when I was doing my research. This has nothing to do with anything. I was just calling this slide a guy having a really good day. I found this slide. Apparently there was a gambling something going on at the Biltmore. And the cops busted it. Today, when something goes on, we revoke the CUP, but if you look at where the Biltmore used to be, back then they just would erase the whole building. And this is what we have today. And because we have something like this today, because we were willing to take a risk, because we were willing to do things that maybe stretched what we were comfortable with, we're able to do things like this. Does everybody see the word Stanley Cup right here? Maybe some of you missed it. Let me show you what the people were like that day. I think we can applaud that. Matt Bennett, where are you at? Well done. We sang Happy Birthday to Stolle, who was on stage with me here when he gave him a certificate. The only thing I noticed in this picture, other than the size of this guy's arm, I think Maureen might have a new favorite hockey player. Upper Pier. Everybody remembers this, right? That's the 50s. Again, same parking meters. Anybody remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Raging Cajun, by the way, is supposed to go next to Motor Music. How about that? Well, somebody looked at all this after they got elected to council and talked to another councilman named Pete Tucker into starting a committee. And we thought maybe we could change it into something that looked like this. And when we got this drawing, then we did this. Does anybody remember that? I don't remember it either. In fact, somebody asked me if I was responsible for doing that to the streets in my town, I'd have moved to Redondo too. How about this? And all these businesses are there now. If you look at our chart, at our budget for this year, you'll see that the income from sales tax on Upper Pier rose 7% this year.
Wow.
7%. And it's probably still going up. There are more businesses that are coming in there. If you look, the number of businesses that revamped and refurbished themselves, all the way up and down the street. All small businesses too. I don't know, is that Pat Love?
Yeah, I was going to say, is that
I wasn't sure. I was looking through these photos again. I wasn't sure. So why am I showing you that? Well, I'm showing you that because we're not done yet. We've fixed the plaza. The plaza is now amazing. Certainly we have problems with the management, but we're working on that. Upper Pier Avenue, I don't think there's any debate that it's better than it ever was. The next thing now is to start talking about what we're going to do here in the core and what we're going to do at the community center. Now, as you all know, the buildings right over here to our immediate, what would it be? South, have just sold, the Mermaid. And they're talking about putting in a hotel there with a restaurant. Now, the reason that that is something that's important, because that's going to revitalize the whole core. And what you do then is you have the corridor that connects the bottom of the pier with what we hope to do at the top of the pier. So The other good thing that happens when you have a hotel down here, or maybe two, is you start getting more transient occupancy tax. One of the hoteliers told me that there are 5.1 million people who visit our beach every year. 5.1 million people. I know because I read it in the paper that the hotel they're talking about putting in over in Redondo, they're talking about $500,000 of TOT on that hotel, the new shade that's going in Redondo. Do you think we could use that money here? I think we could. The other thing that you'll find, according to the folks who develop these hotels, is that folks who come and stay in a hotel typically spend the same amount outside of the hotel as they do for the room.
They spend more outside than they do in the hotel.
So if somebody's coming down here to spend $350 a night on a hotel room, the folks who have the restaurants and the shops and the rest of it, they all benefit and the whole town benefits. These are things that we think are a good thing for our community. The Civic Center and the Community Center, a little bit old. Talking about doing some revitalization there and moving some of the civic functions to the community center and doing something with this property that would make it an anchor at the top of the street as well as the bottom. These are all just in the conceptual stages right now, but we are thinking about them, and we think it's going to make Hermosa Beach even better. Whoops, no, I'm sorry. It is a great picture of that way. Here's one idea. It just makes sense, doesn't it, that we would continue what we did on Upper Pier, right here at Hermosa Ave. You'd have, at the end of the street here on 16th or 14th Street, an archway. You'd have one down by Comedy and Magic. To switch the parking around to the same way that we had it on Upper Pier. And do the same kind of landscaping that we did on Upper Pier Avenue to make the whole thing consistent. The idea, of course, being to get people out of their cars to walk, to spend money. You find all kinds of great effects that happen when people are out of their cars walking. This is just one idea, there'll be more. And by the way, this is going to be a community effort when we start talking about these things. This was just one conceptual idea that I wanted to share with all of you. Oh, I forgot. So we also found, when we were doing our research on Tom, that one of the things that he's good at is wrestling. So.
The Coliseum video, so once again, Coliseum video really moved heaven and earth to bring this match to you. And talking about moving heaven and earth, here's somebody who can move that particular planet.
Okay. Someone who can move heaven and earth. These are a couple of near-term improvements that I want to talk about. I'm going to transition just a little bit now into what we're doing on the council in the near term to make things better. One of the things that I have been a strong proponent of is getting rid of all the paper. I mean, we murder trees at an unbelievable rate in city council meetings. There's no reason we should be doing that. So soon, hopefully by the end of April, we will have paperless city council meetings. This is important because all of you can sign up for the same agendas and information that me, as the mayor, get on Thursday night. It would just all go out at the same time. Everyone would see the same things. It will be tremendous, and it will spare staff a lot of work. This is our chief and some of his guys getting ready for 4th of July. I joke about that a little bit, but not really. We didn't do a good job last year with 4th of July, and I want to assure everybody that we're going to do better this year. One of the things that we've started to do already is outreach. We're going to do some videos, believe it or not, that we'll put on YouTube, directed towards high school kids and younger adults, letting them know that if you come to Hermosa Beach, you better be careful and not act like you did last year, because those things aren't going to, it's just not going to be that way as it was last year. We're going to have a paddy wagon we're going to park down on 2nd Street. So when you come in and you're going to go out on the beach and get out of control, you might end up in the paddy wagon. So I hope I don't see any of you in there. Who's laughing? Who really? I think JR can get you out if we do. This is a serious topic, and I want to touch on it because I don't think we talk about it enough. We have started to do more city-school cooperation than we ever have in the past. The school board, as many of you know, now meets in the city council chambers. The meetings are televised. We met with them in a joint meeting, which we had not done for 4 years. We've done it now. But one of the things that we're going to do is talk about school safety and the threats that exist today for school kids. At the risk of being too somber, I want to tell you a quick story. One of the kids, the kid who did the shooting in Connecticut, one of the teachers, when she knew that the shooting was going on, told all of her kids to lay down on the ground. She went around to each of them. She kissed them. She told them, "I love you, and your parents love you." And then when the young man came into the room, he killed every one of them where they lay. Now let me ask another question. How many school kids have died in the last 50 years in America because of fire? 0. Why is that? We practice fire drills, don't we? Because, I mean, everybody in this room remembers being in school and having fire drill. You knew which door to go to, you knew to stop, drop, and roll, to touch the door, to smell the smoke. You knew all those things. When's the last time someone's done the same sort of thing for an active shooter scenario? And let me ask you another rhetorical question. If it had been a fire, do you think the teacher would have gone around and laid all the children down on the floor and kissed them? Told them that their parents loved them? No. So what's the difference? Practice. We have to practice. The average active shooter event, 12.5 minutes. 12.5 minutes. It takes our cops about 3 minutes to get there. So anyone who's familiar with guns knows you can do a lot of damage in 3 minutes. So the first people who have to be ready are the teachers and the kids. And we need to make sure that our cops are ready. And it's probably not going to be a whole swarm of cops that shows up. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 closest guys. Maybe they're eating lunch. Maybe they're across the street. Maybe it's our fire department. Are we prepared for any of that? We're getting there. We're getting there. It's important stuff. And I'm going to keep talking about it, and I promise you all that the council is committed to making sure these things happen, because Hermosa Beach is going to be prepared, and it's going to be as safe as it can possibly be. Okay, here we go. This is the light side of the function now. Take a sip here before we get started.
You have to keep your eye on the camera.
Okay. Oil. There's a lot of information going on out there right now about the oil deal. I wanted to just talk about the settlement quickly because there is, the misinformation is swallowing up the information. And I want to make sure that all of you have the facts. So the first thing is, bankruptcy was really never an option for us. I'll explain that more in just a sec. The risks. There were tremendous risks involved. When we were preparing this case for trial, we were burning through about, I believe it was $200,000 a month getting ready for trial. And one of the things that we did to get ready for trial was go out and impanel a mock jury. What's a mock jury? Well, all of you, I assume, are registered voters. You could be on a mock jury. A trial team would go out and collect 50 people. They would sit you down like a jury, and then both sides, the pro and con, would present their case to you, not the other side. Our lawyers would present both sides of the case. One of our lawyers presented the city side, one presented the Pearson side. And they basically tried the case to a panel of people who are a representative jury pool for Los Angeles County. They do the statistics so they know what the percentages would be for male, female, ethnicity, employment history, all of those things. And you pick a representative sample and you try the case. What I'm going to show you now is how that case went down in front of the jury. This is the first one. This is information when we were talking about the settlement that we knew. Table 4, I'll read it to you. I know it's an eye test. Did the city of Hermosa Beach prove by preponderance of the evidence that the September 1998 City Council decision to terminate the lease was a legitimate and justified action of the city? The only thing you need to look at on this one is the post-deliberation group, which is what happened after they tried the case. They talked to the jurors got together like a jury would. They talked about the case. The only thing you need to look at there is that number. 25 of them said no. One guy said yes. 96% against us. That's not maybe not. No, that's a loser. That's a bad case. Some of you are probably thinking, well, maybe it's because we had bad lawyers. bear this in mind, our same trial team was presenting both sides of the case. So the idea that we were going to skate out of this unscathed, please put that out of your mind, it wasn't going to happen. The next question then is, well, assuming that the city was going to be sown, what do you think the lost profits were? Whoops. I'm sorry, one in between there. Did McPherson Oil prove with reasonable certainty that it suffered damages from lost profits? Again, all you need to look at is this one. 70% said yes. So we know our case is probably not the best case in the world. We know they've got a pretty good one. The next question, of course, is, well, what would that be worth to them? What is the amount of McPherson's lost oil profits? They asked the potential jurors what they thought the lost oil profits would be. The only thing you need to think about here is the post-deliberation group number. The median, $284 million. $284 million. Now, we might have gotten lucky because the range was 17 to $551 million. The point is this: anybody who thinks that the settlement was a bad deal doesn't know the facts. The settlement was the only deal. It was the only deal. This is all water under the bridge. It's over. It's done with. But I wanted all of you to know what the facts were that the council was considering when it was thinking about whether or not to get out of this lawsuit. Bankruptcy. There are other people out in the community who are going to tell you, you know what? Go bankrupt. Just go bankrupt. Go bankrupt. Two things you should know about that. Number one, me, Michael, Mr. Jenkins, Steve Burrell, we sat in a room with a retired bankruptcy judge. The first thing he said to us when I'm sorry? Orange County bankruptcy judge, I'm sorry. He was the judge who handled Orange County's bankruptcy in 1989. The first thing he said to us, he was an old Navy fighter pilot. He looked at me, because I was mayor at that time, and he said, from Boston, Kit, you might get into bankruptcy, but you're not getting out of it. So let's just put that one aside. He took the bankruptcy code and he pushed it aside and looked at us and said, so what else do you got? That was one of those moments that was a, uh-oh, I think we need a better plan B, and we didn't have one. So, other cities, though, have gone that route. Some of you might be familiar with Mammoth Lakes. Let me tell you a quick story about Mammoth Lakes. Mammoth Lakes has an airport. They got a developer to come in, and they told the developer, hey, it'd be really neat if you put in a hotel with all of the amenities near our airport. The developer signed a contract with the city. Everybody's happy. FAA comes in and says, hey, wait a minute. We don't think that environmentally you did enough stuff for this hotel to be put in, and we're going to withhold our funds that we're going to give you for the airport until you fix all of that. The city, Mammoth Lakes, wanted the money from the feds because they wanted to fly big airplanes into their little airport to boost revenues for whatever they needed there in the city. So they went back to the developer and said, developer, you know what? We're not sure we want to really have a hotel anymore, and we're not going to do this until we work everything out with the feds. The hotel guy who had signed a contract said, no. You signed a contract. Any of this sound familiar? They were more cavalier than we were, and they went to trial and they got murdered. $43 million judgment. The city is about I think it's a $19 million budget. You can read that's the quote. The judgment was upheld. The town was trying to break an agreement it signed with the developer. So what happens when that happens? Well, the same thing that would have happened here probably. They start looking for ways to cut. Does everybody remember the first slide I showed you where we spend our money? 63% of it on public safety. What do you think the fattest thing to cut is? Public safety. So what does Mammoth Lakes do? Well, they talk about getting rid of 7 of their police officers. It's 7 of their, I'm sorry, 9 of their police officers, 17 total. So they're going to half their police force. Of course, the DA comes around and says, no, that's a really bad idea. It's going to be terrible for the city. They're still mired in this. This is still going on right now. This is one of those, but for the grace of God, go us kind of scenarios. So all of this, I just want all of you to know the facts when people talk about, well, we should have gone bankrupt, or we would have wanted to try. No, none of it is accurate, and it wasn't a good gamble. Okay. So now what are we talking about? EIRs. What's an EIR? An EIR is an informational document. I can see that I've started to tread into the boring part of my speech. This is important because we're going to be talking about an EIR a lot. I want all of you to know what one is. It's an informational document. The EIR is just supposed to highlight all of the environmental impacts that the project will potentially have on our community. That's all it's supposed to do. When it's over, and it's going to do it in voluminous detail, subatomic detail, but when it's over, the City Council is going to certify that it's complete. So you're going to hear people talking about, well, the city should reject the EIR, it should do that. That's just not how the process works. We're going to talk about the process a little more in just a moment, but I want you all to know what an EIR is. Here's the process, and this is one of the documents that you have on your chair. Right now we're here, we're at the beginning. And we're going to move through this process. There are only a couple of things I want to highlight. The first one is that we're going to start scoping, which are going to be community-involved discussions. So anybody who's interested can show up and start talking about what types of things we think are important for the EIR and the rest of it. You can see here there's going to be a draft EIR where you'll be able to weigh in publicly. There'll be public commentary. We're going to do a health impact assessment. The city's going to hire a consultant to do those sorts of things so that we know what the health impacts are of the project potentially. And we're also going to do an economic assessment. Some of you may be aware that the oil company has already performed their economic assessment. The city is going to hire its own consultant because we think it's important to do so. It's going to evaluate the economic impacts as well. There'll be a facilitated dialogue, and then you can see there'll be more. There's all kinds of opportunity for public comment and questions. But this is where we are right now. It's just getting started. I'd encourage you all to go onto the city's website and sign up for alerts so you can stay involved and know what's happening as it's happening. Okay, last thing. A lot of people out there are angry that we're going to vote on this. And I understand that. But here's really just the end of it all. In my view, the question wasn't whether or not we had oil. The question was whether or not we had a city. You understand that? I mean, we were talking about disincorporation. All those wonderful slides I showed you about the Insomniac and the pier and upper pier and all of the great things that we've done, the city might just not have been anymore had we lost this case. So it wasn't really about oil or not oil. It was, did we want to have a city or did we not, really? It was that stark of a choice. It was a bet the enterprise proposition. So, it's in your hands. And if you think your neighbor's going to vote the wrong way, you should go talk to them and tell them, hey, don't vote that way, vote this way. Or if you think that they're going to do the wrong thing, inform them, give them the information. You are empowered to do the right thing, whatever you think the right thing is. And that's how this should resolve. It shouldn't have resolved in the courtroom, otherwise we look like Mammoth Lakes. It shouldn't have resolved at the city council level. I wasn't even here when we started this. Many of you weren't. But you're going to get to decide now, and that's how this should resolve. And we think that's the fairest way it could be. So again, if you think somebody's going to make the wrong choice, talk to them about it. If you think your neighbor's going to screw you, go talk to them. That's the way that the whole thing is supposed to work. Okay. Wow, this got really dry. When did you get so? I'm normally pretty funny, I think, right? Oh, maybe I can redeem myself. So we found this video, and this is the last one, and then I'll take some questions. If y'all look on the note on your chairs, there are note cards. If you have questions, I'd ask you to write a question here and hand it to Matt, and I'll answer them if you have a few. So this is the video. We found it. Despite this, Tom's performance, we still hired him anyways, and when we had him perform for us, he was much improved. That's all I'll say.
The sun goes down on me, yeah. Although I search myself, there's always someone else I see. I just allow a fragment of your life to wander free.
Got any, Matt? If you have questions, just write them out and just raise them up, and Matt or Maureen will come and grab them from you.
All right, kid, we got a few here. Surprising, we have a few oil questions for you. Okay, if the, I know this is a long process, but if the oil passes, who would decide where the profit goes and what percentage?
That would be up to the council. I mean, there are certain restrictions on where money could be used based on where it comes from. But that would be a council-based decision, so we would ultimately decide. Your elected officials will decide.
And why was it important for the council to remain neutral before the ballot?
Before the EIR stuff? Well, I know, right? So nobody has to identify themselves as the author. We as a council have decided there are some who think that we should come out and be more opinionated on how this should go. The reason that we're not is, number one, we think that it's important to remain as completely unbiased as we can. An unbiased clearinghouse of fact is what we are striving to be on this issue. And if we cannot show an affinity one way or the other, we think that that would not help the rest of the community. The other thing that's important to remember is at some point we're going to have to vote on an EIR and certification of an EIR. And it would be problematic if we had already shown a predisposition one way or the other. That's what the lawyers call bias. And so we're trying as a council to remain unbiased as we can.
Okay, and last one here, I think probably just a refresher, a lot of people would know the answer, but if the oil drilling does not pass, what would happen in regards to city funds?
There would be, there's a penalty clause if it doesn't pass of $17 million, $17.5 million. And that is payable, and we were very precise about this, that is payable in a commercially feasible time. What is that? I don't know. It's not 60 days, it's not immediate. It is a commercially feasible time, which is some time that would not hamstring the city. And we would negotiate that with the oil company, but it would not be immediate.
Just hand it to me. Do you have any examples of a city that were destroyed by bankruptcy?
Other cities?
Other cities?
Yeah, sure. Vallejo, San Bernardino.
They were not dissolved.
No. Listen, JR, we were at the edge of the earth, the edge of the legal earth when it gets to this. We'll see what happens with Mammoth Lakes. That'll be the best example. And right now it's unclear what's going to happen. But this is new and uncharted water.
It's not.
Okay, well, thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you all for your attention. Thanks so much. Tom, thanks for being a good support.
The Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau, I'd like to thank you and all the councilmen for attending tonight, and we appreciate the presentation.